Adam, welcome to the show. Thank you for making time for this. I know you guys are getting ready for your headliner right now. You just got off the plane from Europe,
Yes.
right?
Yes, thank you for having me. Yes. Landed what's today? Thursday. Uh Landed Tuesday evening. So yeah, we've been home for a full little over 24 hours. So yeah.
Man, you're a trooper. I appreciate it. I,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like
yeah.
I do not do well with jet lag and shit like that at all.
Like everyone I've talked to has asked me about like jet lag, but because I did not adjust my sleep schedule over there, that I'm still on the same schedule. So, ironically enough, like maybe I'm immune to it. Maybe we just travel so much that I've developed a threshold, or did the unhealthy thing by going to sleep at 7 a.m. in Europe, or 6 a.m. in Europe, which was my normal sleep time back home. But who's here to judge?
Either way, yeah. Cool. Well, I appreciate it. And tell me tell me about the catwalk. I've been
Oh,
following that on your Instagram story.
so that was the sickest thing I've ever done, and I don't care if, like, I played like shit, I don't care if, like, I looked stupid. The fact that, like, I pulled some big dick, like, guitar player move out there, like, I am ecstatic to be able to do that, like, and I didn't wanna do it at first, but, like, so Will was using it, and he was like, "Dude, you gotta come up here and do a solo," and I was like, "That's not me, I'm not that kinda guy to go out there, like, in front of everyone." He's like, "You gotta do it," and, like, I was watching, like, Parkway and, like, uh they had like a lift at the front. So during one of their solos in the set, like he literally would like raise all the way up. And I was like, that's the sickest thing. Like I would fucking shit my pants because I hate heights. So to be
Yeah.
like going up while you're playing guitar solo, I would be like, there's no way in hell I'm doing that. But I was like, all right, maybe I should go up. Let's see how I feel about doing it. And then I went up and like my legs were like shaking because there were just people all around me. And I'm like, this is awful. But then like I kind of got adjusted to it and like was the sickest thing ever, and I'm just kinda mad that I don't have a catwalk on this coming tour, so
So now
I
you're
got
addicted, and next it's going to be the Tommy Lee upside down drum set thing.
oh, if they gave me, like, an upside down like, guitar player harness, it's game over. Uh, I would just hang upside down like a vampire and just play our set.
Why not?
And yeah, I
Why
mean, come
not?
on, for
Well,
show
I
business.
got I gotta say, before we get into it, that it's very cool and inspiring to see all the success you guys have had, knowing how many difficult times you've gone through and everything like that. So it really makes me happy to see you guys so successful over the past couple years.
Well, thank you. It's, I think at this point, we just got used to, or at least me personally got used to that just, like, roadblocks are a thing of Lorna Shore, so it just I kind of accepted it like years ago that like shitty things are gonna keep happening. So you gotta just get good at like being resilient in some sort of way because it's just been like the MO for forever. So it just even as a local band, even just kind of going through, we just got so used to just kind of having to roll with the punches and just take one on the chin. So I don't know. It's kind of like maybe I like Rocky too much. And he
But you
just
did that for like 8 years. It wasn't
yeah,
like
yeah,
six
yeah.
months.
Yeah, like no, for sure. It's been for like ever. And like I said, every Rocky movie is like him getting beat up for like 11 rounds, then he comes back and wins in the 12th round. So like maybe I just my childhood of watching like Rocky too much is just like unconsciously coming out in this.
Well, I mean, for me, like, my life didn't really start coming together until I was 34. Um,
Mhm.
it kind of when I was like 31, but not really until I was like 34. So, for anybody listening, just hang in there. It happens when it happens.
Yeah, that was definitely like an early struggle for me uh when we were like trying to break out is that like I was always older and I was seeing all these like bands that were like 18 and 19 getting signed and going on tour and I was like, "Well, I guess this is not happening for me, so let me figure something else out." And then like 3 months later we, put out a video and got our first ever like full national tour. So like it was just crazy to think that like that fall I was like, "That's it. I got to figure out a new life plan." And then like released a video and then did our first like full US with like Carnifex in like 2014 and then got all this like interest. So it was just crazy how like life changed within a short period of time.
Well, I want to talk about, well, first of all, let's make sure we promote the new album. Pain Remains
Yes.
comes out when October 14th. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, next Friday.
So by the time anybody sees this, that will be out. Definitely go stream it, go buy the vinyl, do whatever you can. Support the boys in Lorna. But I was very impressed with Pain Remains, the two videos that have been released so far. Um, I think that is like by far the best thing that you guys have done, specifically because one of my issues with a lot of modern deathcore, I mean deathcore in general, but especially a lot of the newer stuff, is that to me it doesn't feel like it has a lot of emotional weight. Like it's just kind of sick riffs for the sake of sick riffs, which is fine. I mean, I like sick riffs and breakdowns and stuff as much as everybody. Um, but this song, I'll call it one song, even though I guess it's three songs, but like this song and these videos really hits different because it feels like there's actual emotional weight to it.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, unanimously, like anyone involved in the project, from like the whole band to Josh to most people at the label, like Pain Remains is everyone's like favorite thing. When they like heard it, like everyone was like, I love the record. And then once like that came on, they were like, it felt like a completely different thing. Um, and I totally agree with you. I think for me, uh, I think what the extreme metal world is missing is a sense of authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like just authenticity in the sense of like not like you're doing what you want to do, but essentially just like displaying yourself. It feels
Right.
a lot of like mask of of putting stuff out there for the sake of what we think is supposed to be good. Like I think lyrical content is written in a way that like is this is what it's meant to be about. And I just and like even looking at like album art, it's just like it's fictitious creatures in a
Right.
fictitious place. I'm just like I don't. There's no like relatability to that, and I don't know. I think for me, I just always try to express ourselves in music, and that just end up those three songs end up being way more emotional. But I think it's just something that I always try to add is as a level of emotion to our music because I mean, it has to come out somewhere, otherwise it just bottles up within you. And I feel like being a musician and having an outlet to be able to kind of put that out there is I'm grateful for it because not everyone has that ability to express themselves. So I feel like through the blanket of Lorna Shore, we get to express ourselves. And but yeah, I just feel like it definitely is missing. It's just missing this kind of emotional, like human element to it. It's like I don't know, and I maybe it just feels kind of like wrestling, if you will. Like it just feels like
Right.
you're putting on this like
Right.
persona, this bit. You're like speaking about this stuff. You have this feud with this other wrestler that you don't have a feud with, and it just
Right.
feels very just like forged for the sake of it. And some people react to it and they don't really care. They just want it to be like I want to hear sick riffs and stuff that were, and that's totally cool. It's just like for me, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to go down a different path, but yeah, those three songs I think I'm like definitely the most proud of, like collectively. Uh, with just everything about it.
How are people reacting to that so far? From what I've seen, it seems like everyone is saying the
It's
same kind of
really
stuff that I
awesome,
am.
like, it's so these songs came out, when we were in Europe, so I was watching some of the videos, some reaction videos, or even people just messaging me, and, like, it is, like, super overwhelming, and it's really awesome to see, like, everyone's emotional reaction to it. Like, it's just cool to see people, like, on video or on stream just, like, bawling their eyes out, and I'm like, "That's good." Like, that's good. It's not a bad thing. It's not anything wrong. It's not anything, like, negative. It's just cool to see that, like, our music has that effect. Receiving, like for me, the thing that's, like, the most, like, humbling is just the amount of messages I receive, like, that it, like, helps people, and, like, 'cause it's just cool because, like, I've been in that position, like, listening to bands and, like, feeling a sort of type of way, and it's just, like, cool to kinda be on the other end of it. Because like, there's been bands that have done that for me. There's been albums that, like, were the perfect song or the perfect album for that point in time that, like, what I was looking for, and it, it's cool to be on the other end of that, and I'm very, like, grateful and, like, honored that people, like, trust me with some, like, real deep, like, emotional stuff, and it's just cool that just to see that songs that kinda we wrote kinda we did right. We wrote in Michigan where I was, like, having, like, a mental breakdown is, like, giving people, like, a positive experience in such a, like, emotional state. So, it's really awesome to see, to be honest.
The mental breakdown, is that what you were talking about on Instagram?
Yeah. Like, I was at a very, 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 like one of my lowest points, I think, throughout, like, last year was just, like it was just a lot of pressure, and it was a lot of just, like, also other stuff just all kind of, like, being this perfect storm and just, like yeah, I was just really going through it doing this record, and it was definitely for sure, like, in the middle of doing these 3 songs. Like, that was, like, the songs I was working on while I was, like, having this, like, crisis and this, like, meltdown and this sort of, like I got to the point where I was like, I'm flying home. Like I called management being like, I don't care if we don't finish this record. Like I got to go home or like I'm not going to be alive. So like I'm out. And he was just like, what? And I was like, I got to go home. Like I don't care if we have 4 songs written or recorded. Like I don't care if like whatever. I just like the band can finish it. Do whatever you want. Like I'm out. I was like I can't go through this. And it was just like so much shit going on from like the pressure of the record, being in the studio, like personal stuff to just like all this stuff kind of going on last year and like kind of ironically enough came out in these 3 songs, or I mean, it came out the whole record, but like that's what I was working on at that point in time. And it was just such a like rough moment for me. And like I could not shake it. And I did my best to like contain it, but it was just really fucking hard. And I'm just glad to be on the other side of it. But yeah, it was a very, very rough moment for me.
So you're doing better now.
Yeah, better. Different, but better. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was really cool that you shared that because that was like really shocking to me just because, I mean, I don't know you, so I wasn't really aware that it got that bad for you. And I think it's cool that you shared it because there's so many other people going through the same thing and other people have no idea that it was happening to them. I mean, like 10 years ago, I would just be sitting there watching TV with my wife and like every 5 minutes I would think about killing myself for no fucking reason.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you said, there was no reason in the post you were saying like I should be feeling great right now, but I don't. Same for me. There was no reason for me to feel that way, but I would just be like, maybe I should kill myself.
No, and that's what it was, and it was just that was, like, the hardest part to shake is, like, the more I was telling myself I should be happy and, like, everyone around me was telling me, like, how proud they are and, like, how sick this is and, like, your band's blowing up and you just got an endorsement from, like, your dream guitar company and, like, you're getting on a Bring the Horizon tour, like, Parkway Drive tour, like, all these, like, things. I'm just like, why am I feeling this way? And I would express it to people and everyone would just look at me as if I'm, like, just being ungrateful, and I'm like, "I'm not ungrateful, I'm just unhappy." And, like, I'm not saying that these things are, like, things to be upset about, but like this does not bring happiness because I have like good opportunities. It's just like I internally was not in a good place. I internally was just going through. And the more I was trying to like tell myself, oh, be grateful, be happy, like you have all these things. Like, why can't you not receive all these like positive messages? It's like I was just not in a place to receive it because like I was going through stuff and like all these things would just be like band-aids. And it's just like I had a probably like a bullet hole through me, and you wouldn't just keep putting like fucking band-aids on. It would just keep
Or
bleeding through. And
stuff
yeah.
money in it,
No,
you know?
exactly, like, it wouldn't work. You'd be like, "Okay, I need to, like, heal this," and, like
Yeah.
and I think that, like, since that time, I've been, like, going through that process of, like, dealing with a lot of that stuff, and, uh, but it was just and I think that was just the harder part about it is that, like, I knew I should be feeling happy, but, like, I didn't, and that was just, like, making matters worse, and yeah, and I was, like, really scared for myself, and I was really scared for my life because, like, I never had a lot of those, like, thoughts come in as often. Like, I would always deal with it, since, like, a teenager, and, like, it would always, like, kind of ebb and flow and be circumstantial, and I understood where the circumstances were coming from. But it was like this point was like it wasn't circumstantial because it was just more so like on a regular basis, just like having a mental breakdown, just driving somewhere and being like,
Right.
I, I don't I don't know what to do, and it was that was like the more shocking thing because like you can understand when you're like a teenager and you got your first like heartbreak. It's like I get it, you know what I'm saying? Like I get it. I listened to My Chemical Romance, got broken up with, like I get it, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you're in that
Feels like
moment.
the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Feel like the end of the world, like the girl that like you had a crush on for a month broke your heart, like listen to the Black Parade and you're like, this makes sense. And but so I understood that, but like in last year's sense and like through this year was just like way different experience because it wasn't like girl breaking up with you Black Parade moment. It was like I couldn't even explain it.
Yeah. It's like fighting your own brain. You wake up every morning and you're like, "Would you please stop
Yeah.
being like this?"
Yeah, no, it 100% was like that, and, like, some days were better than others because, like, I was so preoccupied, we're so busy that, like, it turned my brain off because like, it was like, "Alright, you have to, like, get ready for tour and do this when you're on tour," or whatever it may be, and, have rehearsal and whatnot, so it was like, "Alright, cool," like, that would, like, occupy my time, then I would just be, like, alone driving home and being like, "Alright, everything that I just, like, put on the back burner just now just come, like, to the forefront, just like, "Okay, what's going on?" And then it just like it was definitely difficult, and then that like fueled a lot of the record, and uh, I was like really like kind of going through that, and again, I was grateful that I have like a band that I enjoy being around, and like everyone in the band like I love. like Josh is like was the best like for me at that point in time because like one of my best friends, I don't mean to get emotional right now. Um, but he's like one of my best friends because like he was definitely trying his best to like see me struggle and was just like trying to like what can I do to help? So it was cool to have people around me not knowing how bad I was going through it to like try and help as best they can. So it was just like super grateful that I had people around me. I had like a therapist. I had like like I would call friends. I would call like my family and stuff like that. And I'm definitely grateful. And but yeah, it was just definitely a super rough moment. And I don't know if like without those like supports of like everything kind of around me, I don't really have the answer where I would be. And like I'm kind of glad I don't live in that reality. But yeah, it
Yeah.
was I definitely am relieved to have that sort of stuff kind of happening when it was happening.
I'm really glad that you shared that though, because I think there's a lot of things that people are going to learn from that. Number one is that if there's someone in their life that's going through this, that it doesn't make sense. Like it's not rational. Your brain just feels like shit for whatever the reason is, chemistry or whatever it is. Like it doesn't
Hmm.
make sense, and you can't necessarily like make someone snap out of it. It doesn't work that way.
Hmm.
And, and if someone is themselves going through it, that, um, I've sometimes like felt guilty that I feel bad. You know what I mean? Like I shouldn't feel bad because my life is good. And I feel guilty because I know there's other people that have way worse lives than me. And I feel like I shouldn't feel bad, you know?
Yeah, and I think that like I see that happen a lot, and like the whole like comparative suffering is just useless in my opinion. Like
Right.
it's like, oh, you can't have it bad because someone else has it worse. It's just like, what does that solve? You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't think it helps. It's just like, and it feels very invalidating. It feels very diminishing, and just feels like you're
Yeah.
just basically just telling someone to shut up because like your problem's not worth it.
Right.
And I just hear people. I don't think they're doing it consciously, but I hear that like sort of conversation going on, or like uh or even that inner self dialogue like I shouldn't be upset like someone has it worse like or you've had it worse at other points in time in your life and it's like there's no reason to like invalidate my experience like this is like what my feelings are feeling like totally like ride that roller coaster but and I try to like I catch my friends when they talk to me about it they're like oh like I shouldn't be complaining about this like it's not that bad it's like well it is that bad it's obviously bothering you enough like you don't need to like turn it off you know what I'm saying like you don't need to be like oh well like someone has it worse yeah they might have it worse and like but there's also, like, doesn't mean that you don't deserve the space to be able to, like, have your experience. So, like, yeah, it's a weird conversation with this, like, comparative suffering where it's just like, I don't need to give time to this thing because someone else has it worse, or I shouldn't be bothered by this because, like, someone else is in this situation. And then we're just, like, looking at each other with, like, this sort of, like, measuring each other up, being like, "Do you have it
Like
worse
it's a
than I do?"
spreadsheet.
Yeah, like, "Do you have it worse than I do, or do I have it worse
Yeah.
than you? Because if I have it worse than you, like, then you can't talk to me on stuff, and I'm like,
Right.
I have this cloak of like, invulnerability to be able to just, like, spread all my shit everywhere because, like,
Right.
I'm the one that's, like, the wounded animal, so, like, you're
Right.
not, so I don't wanna hear you." And it's just, like, that doesn't help the conversation, doesn't help people, it doesn't, like, resolve the outcome of just, like, people are dealing with stuff, and, like, it doesn't matter what it is, like, it doesn't matter if it's just, like, you're mad that, like, you're caught in traffic on the way to work, like, it doesn't matter, like, if you're angry about it, like, you're angry about it, like, are you gonna complain about it for a year? Probably shouldn't, but, like, doesn't mean I can't listen to you for 5 minutes vent about how you got stuck in traffic, like, it is what it is, like, I think everyone's entitled to the floor, I think everyone's entitled to the light, and I think, uh, I don't really feel it helps to silence those because the fact that we're deciding for them if it's worthy or not to listen to.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to put it. And it's like everyone, especially on social media, everyone has declared themselves the judge of who's allowed to feel a certain way.
Yeah, like, the fuck? Like, who are we to sit there and tell how anyone else can feel? We're not even in their shoes, and we're not even inside themselves, and it's something that doesn't even make sense to us, and we're going through it, let alone someone else is gonna tell me that I shouldn't experience this, like, what? How does like,
Right.
logically, it doesn't even make any sense. It's like, even when you're in that moment, you can't even make sense of what's going on, let alone you're to let someone else know that, like, they can't have something, whether it be big or little, or, I would see it happen with, like, I would see, like, friends get out of, like, a relationship, and then, like, I'd have other friends be like, "Oh, just get over it. It's just a girl." It's just like, maybe to them it's a significant situation, or like maybe someone who like loses a job that like they hated, but it was like a level of security, and it's like, oh, you hated that job. It's like, yeah, but like I put food on the table with this shit job that I hated. Like I don't know what to do now. Like I understand that you're trying to help, but like literally just let people have their moment, their experience, and just be a support and listen to someone, because like you don't know what they're going through and you don't know what they're going to do. And I try to give someone that grace, because like even if I feel it's like irrational or insignificant, that's not my place to decide. And one thing that I've always like thought about metaphorically is like, as an adult, I mean, I don't have kids, but if I had kids, and you know, I remember what it's like, again, as I mentioned, having that teenage heartbreak. My parents would be looking at me when they're dealing with like not paying bills, dealing with like bankruptcy, and being like, I can't afford this stuff, being like, oh, I don't care that you just got like you just got your heart broken at 16. Like it doesn't really matter compared to like what I'm going through. Like that would be awful as a parent to be to your kid, because
Right.
to your kid at that point in time, like their world has shattered. And yeah, in the grand scheme of things, when you go through life, like that's not a big deal. But like at that point in time, that was a major deal. You know, that was a major deal, and that definitely was probably a big blow. And like, who are we to decide like the merit of that? Because to them, it could be the biggest deal in the world. And yeah, maybe when you are in your 40s, you're like, yeah, that's trivial. Like, but to them, it's a big deal. So like, allow them to have that.
I try to keep that stuff in mind. Like if I'm at the grocery store and someone's like being an asshole to me or something, I'm like, well, I don't know what they're going through. Maybe they just got a divorce. Maybe that's why
Yeah.
this guy is so short with me right now.
Yeah. It's always, I think it was a quote. I don't know who said the quote, but everyone's fighting a battle you know nothing about.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
I try to look at that and like not take things personally. Like, um, yeah, I mean, like you're saying, you can be at the grocery store and just like trying to just do your business, and someone's just like really giving you shit. And it's just like, maybe they're just an ass, and it has nothing to do with me, because they're probably doing it to everybody. But like, or maybe like you're saying, they're going through a moment where like they just got fired and they're divorced all in the same day, and they're just like, I gotta go buy milk. It's like, yeah, I'd be pissed too. Like, like
Totally.
so yeah, I mean, rightfully so. But yeah, I try to like keep that in mind. I'm not perfect with it. Like, but there's definitely moments where I'm like, I try to understand that maybe someone's going through something that I like literally have no idea what they're going through.
Right. Well, another thing I wanted to ask you about, which we talked about a little bit on Instagram, I've had the experience a few times over the past, I don't know, year or so. I'm sitting in bed at night, scrolling through Reddit, because that's what I do when I'm like kind of winding down. And I see a thread about me pop up, and with 300 comments about how awful I am. And it bums me out. I don't like it. It upsets me.
Yeah, it's
How do you feel about that?
so one of the best pieces of advice I ever got, it was actually our first tour we did with Carnifex, and this is during the time of like Lamb Goat, and it was like, if no one's talking
Oh,
shit about
God.
your band on Lamb Goat, then you're not doing anything right. And I was like,
Sure.
I took that into like consideration, because like all the like every single like you look at like any tour that would be announced, no comments, you know, no one's going to it. But like if Attila, this is like Attila, like peak
Right.
Attila, there would be like 100 comments of everyone just roasting him. But I'm like, yo, they're like headlining a main stage at Warped Tour. They're probably doing all right. Um, so I try to keep that in mind. So if there is a bunch of people saying negative things about you, like you're doing definitely something right. It's unfortunate, because you were like, well, I feel like I'm adding value, but then like someone else is like then devaluing me because like they don't
Right.
agree with me. And like I think that in your position, I feel like it's very weird, because it's just like you're just, from my understanding, you're just giving your perspective and like your s- thoughts, and what your analysis on a situation is. And it's like I don't see anything harmful about that. Like I don't understand like the anger, the animosity towards it, because you're just giving a perspective on something, or just like kind of even sometimes just even like in our for instance like our video was just like a lot of some of it was just a lot of like factual evidence of like who left and
Right.
what album came out. Like what's there to be angry about? And I've watched a lot of the videos, and it's just like it's either your perspective or it's just like factual information that, and you're just
Yeah.
the voice delivering it. And I'm just like, I don't understand the anger, even if like you said something that like people don't agree with. I don't That's okay. I think I don't wanna live in a society, in a world that, like, everyone thinks the same way, because that would just be really boring and dumb. So, like, people can disagree with each other and be like, "I don't know if I necessarily agree with that," but, like, doesn't mean that, like, you gotta be like, "Alright, everything about them is, like, the worst thing ever." So I just, like, I
Yeah.
anger towards
It's
you, it
got to
doesn't
be
make any
one or
sense.
the other. Or like for you guys,
Oh, for us, it makes
Lorna,
sense. I get it.
Lorna Shore is the best band in the world. Everything they put out is solid gold. I worship the ground they walk on. 6 months later, all the songs sound the same. They suck. This is trash. I'm over this band.
Like, I thought hard about that for a while. Like, we got home from Chaos and Carnage, and that was, like, the the first tour that we released a new song for the record. So Sun Eater was the first song that came out. So that's when I started seeing like the shift go from like EP stuff where it was like, oh my God, so proud of them. And people are still saying that, but then it just started
Yeah.
going towards like, I'm so tired of seeing them. And then it was
Right.
just like, okay, how do we invalidate this band?
Right.
And to like discredit them. So for me, I like thought long and hard about it. And I don't really know if this is like true. This is again maybe what some it's a little bit of what you do, just given my perspective. It just I think the value and joy about underground music is that like you find this like diamond in the rough, right? Not saying that we're a diamond. I'm just saying it's cool like when you find the unknown band, right?
Cubic
And for
zirconium in the rough, maybe.
yeah, yeah, we're a shinier rock in,
Right.
in the rough, but nonetheless, like you find like that what you seem is like a gem, and then and you're very stoked about. It. And I know what I was like because when I would find about a band that no one knew about, and then I would tell all my friends, I felt like I was like the purveyor of knowledge, and I'm just like just sitting on top of this hill of I know all the music, and I'm like credible, everyone's gonna come to me for music advice, whatever. Um, and I think there's something to that. It's like you find out about the band before everyone else does. And then like you want that band to do good, but like not so good that they get too big. Cause I guess,
Right.
there's a lot of times where you see bands get too big where they don't sound like their band anymore. And you're like, oh, you sold out, you traded your sound for something else, which I feel like some people may take it personally because it feels like you traded us for something better.
Right.
And
It's
I
like
don't
getting
know if that's
dumped.
happening at all the time, but I feel like maybe unconsciously, like that's kind of how I felt sometimes. When I'd see bands like sell out or whatever, go from like being like this like type of band to that band, I'd be like, oh, so like we're not cool enough for you. You want this like demographic of people. So I thought about that. I also thought about like that for me, how I got into extreme music was that like I was an outcast. Like I didn't fit in into like regular society. Like as much as I tried, I didn't. And then I found my way into like underground music. Like I was saying, being from New Jersey, like listening to like Thursday and like Senses Fail and like My Chemical Romance. Like I was in the hotbed of all that stuff, and I was like, cool. Like got into that, felt more accepted. Got into like metal, and then when I started to, like, see, like, normal people that rejected me listening to bands that I was listening to, and I was just like it made me irk, 'cause I'm like, "You rejected me. I found like, you rejected me for this thing that I'm into, and then now you're saying it's cool. You kinda, like, tainted this thing because I have a negative connotation attached to you." And I feel like that's kinda happened with the band, like, just regular everyday people are finding out about the band, and maybe those same people are, like, an image of those who've been casted out and have had to find their way into extreme metal, so I don't know,
Or maybe that's the story that
yeah,
those people tell themselves at
right, right,
least.
and that's what I told myself. So, I mean, I don't know if what I'm saying is any landing for anyone, but, like, I thought about that and I was like, that's just maybe that's what kinda what's happening or it's just, like, the the joy of the underground extreme world is, like, being in the underground, like, you don't wanna be in the mainstream,
Right.
you wanna be, like, that small band, like, we were that band for a while, we were the unsung hero for a while, like, everyone was like, "This band is so underrated," so on and so forth, and it was cool to see that. But then, like, we got a little bit where, like, kind of evened out, where we're like, "Okay, now everyone's proud of us." Then it went the other direction where, like, extreme the other direction where it's just like, "I'm so tired of seeing this band sucks. Will's not a good vocalist. They suck live." Blah like, every single thing you can just decide. I'm just like, "I'm sorry that we just write our songs."
Right.
I'm sorry, like, there's no conspiracy, there's no whatever. I'm just sorry that we write our songs, and, like,
And it
in the band
sucks seeing that shit, right?
yeah, it does, though. I mean, to be
Like
honest, like,
even no matter how much you tell yourself I
yeah.
shouldn't listen to this, it sucks.
It doesn't it's especially if if you're someone that like holds on to words, because I'm someone that like I'm big on like expressing like myself via words. Some people are like everyone has like a different love language to express, and for me it's words. Like I like to make these giant birthday posts about my friends that like they'll just be like I cried. I'm like that's what I want to do. I'll long text message to my friends being like all this sort of stuff, and they'll cry. I'm like I love doing that. So like words are super important. So when someone's just being like all these negative words about like us, it just like it hits a lot harder than maybe other people. But like you don't want to see it because it's just like all I'm trying to do is just do what I want to do. And like I'm sorry that there's like such a negative hostility towards like what we do, but it's just like this is just what I want to do. Like I don't know. It's not any more deeper than that. Like I'm not trying to like do anything else other than just like put out our music, put out our art, and like help people in any sort of way. And like, if it doesn't happen to be you and like you like some other extreme metal band, like by all means, like spend energy there. If like you think deathcore is like lame and you're like, I love like old school like death metal, like then why do you care about what the hell we do? Like go listen to those bands. Like spend more of your energy like on the positive and like the things that you enjoy and like because that's gonna do more benefit there than just like wasting your time like here, like arguing about like us. Like I don't know.
Well, it's
I don't
unfortunate. I mean, like the
yeah.
human brain is wired for negativity. Like in psychology, there's a very well
Mhm,
documented thing called negativity bias.
mhm.
And if you look at Reddit, for example, which I read, like I don't read any of the music stuff at night in bed, but sometimes people send shit to me. Um, if you read any of these threads, like if somebody started a thread called like who are the best bands around, you know, best up and coming bands now, it would get 25 comments. You make the same thread, who are the most overrated bands in the scene
Oh,
right
yeah.
now, you get 10 times more. And I think that's a shame. And I really think everybody should make a deliberate effort to sort of check themselves. If you notice yourself going down that road of like complaining about shit or being critical, maybe check that and don't be part of the problem.
Yeah, I think exactly. I think be part of the solution, not be part of the problem. Like if you're seeing if you're seeing bands that you think are not getting enough credit, like go support them. Don't try to like it's not like it's a pizza pie where there's like 8 slices and if one has a slice, there's only 7 left. Like that's a scarcity mindset. And I
Right.
don't think music and the creative space is a scarcity place. It's meant to be abundant. Like there's so much music allowed to exist, and I don't think it's meant to be like, well, if one person has this, that's one less for everyone else. And if one another person has, that means that's there's a lot less to be available. And it's like I don't really like to believe it in that sort of sense. And maybe that's delusion or whatnot, but I see that like I don't see why what other people do should affect you. And I used to be that way because I used to feel that like negativity and I have no problem admitting that. Like early on in a career when you would get glanced over for a tour, I would take it personal. I'd be like, well, why did this band get it? And then you start invalidating that band. I'm like, well, that band,
Right.
this, that, and the other thing, and like whatever it may be. And like, oh, they only got it because like they're managed by this band or they're doing it, they're doing a favor, like whatever it may be. And it's just like living in that headspace, is just an awful headspace. And I was just in
Like
that
even if everything you said about them is true, it kind of doesn't really matter.
no, it doesn't. Because I'm like then I started seeing that, like, then we would get an opportunity that, like, someone would come to me about. Like, we would get, like, a tour, and they're like, "I don't know why you're on this tour." And I was like, "Thanks, man." Like, I don't
Because our booking agent called
yeah,
me
like,
and
I was like,
asked,
"Yeah." I
and I said
we got an
yes.
offer we said yes, and just like, "Oh," and so then when I thought about that, I was like, "Cool." So, like, how that guy was being towards me, I was doing to somebody else. I was like, "So maybe just, like, allow things to kind of flow as it's supposed to." So if you don't get a tour, maybe instead of being negative towards that, just be excited that like tours are happening and heavy music still exists so that
Right.
your music has a place to go or whatever it may be. Or maybe there's something else you could do in the meantime, or who knows, find a hobby, go to the gym. I don't know. Maybe yeah,
Touch
like I don't know.
grass.
Yeah, like literally, like find something. But yeah, I used to be that like negative person where like anything anyone else did made like I took it personally. And I feel like sometimes that kind of happens with this. You see this like defensive mindset where people just argue over like bands and like this sort of like fandom like sports situation.
Right.
And it's just like in a game of sports, like it's really easy to like argue because you're like, we won, we know, or whatever it may be. But like in the game of music, there's no like who's winning. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, plus you're not in the band.
right?
Like
Yeah, like literally, yeah, like yeah. It's
if
just
if you like them, that's cool and it's awesome that you support it. But like you're not in the band. You don't need to fight for them.
no, yeah. And I see people do that, and I'm just like, I appreciate that, like, we have, like, supportive, like, fans and whatnot, and it's cool and all, but, like, I don't even think the conversation needs to, like, happen, like, there's no reason to, like, argue over, like, are we better than any other band in our genre? Like, no, I don't first off, I don't see us like that. Second off, I don't think it's healthy, and third, it doesn't even, like, matter at all, it doesn't matter, like, there's bands that, like I love all like all different bands. Doesn't matter how big you are. Doesn't matter where you are in the tour package. If I like your music, I don't really care where you fucking play at the
Right.
show. I don't care what tour you're on, what venue you played. Like that's no concern to me. Like, and I just don't find it useful in today's day and age where I see this comparative thing or like I see arguments of like what Lorna Shore vocalist is the best. It's just like shut up. Our current like I would never go to my current if I had a current girlfriend, I wouldn't go to her and being like, just so you know, my last girlfriend so much better than you. Like that is
Yeah.
the
In some
stupidest.
ways, but you're better in these ways.
Yeah, it's just like no, it's just like I would be like, "I'm grateful that you do this thing that,
Yeah.
like, I didn't have," but, like, I would never be like, "Oh, dude, she was so much better than you," and it's like, you would be alone, and, like, when you put it like, why would I like, people would come up to me being like, "Do you prefer Will or CJ or Tom?" And just like, I love Will, like, why he's the current vocalist, I love being around him, of course
Right.
I'm gonna
We're
say Will, like,
stoked that
that's
Will is in the band.
yeah,
He's
like,
great. The end.
yeah, like, why would I sit there and be like, "Nah, I prefer the person that's not here now."
Yeah.
Like,
The
it's
the
weird.
the way I think about it, which is like, I mean, if you've watched my videos, I guess it should be like probably clear. If other people like something, I want to understand why, even if
Right.
I don't like it. Maybe especially if I don't like it. I've made videos about tons of bands that I don't like, because that's not the point. What I want to like, I'll use Rammstein as an example. People always get mad at me because I say their name wrong. Um, there's nothing about their music that I like, but clearly there's a lot of people that do like it, and they've somehow become successful in America, and that's something I would really like to understand. And I don't have to like it to like respect it and appreciate it and go, maybe there's something there that I don't get.
Yeah, and, like, I remember it was years ago when the whole, like everyone would just mention how, like, Nickelback sucked, right? Like,
Right.
that was, like, a big meme about Nickelback sucking, and I'm like, I don't really genuinely care for their songs, like, if I listen to I hear them, I'm like, "Oh, they're good songs," but it doesn't really, like, move me, but, like, there's a reason why that band is big, and it's not some conspiracy. You know,
Right.
like, there's a reason why, like, everyone like, nowadays, everyone, like, tries to invalidate Ghost. It's just like, "Oh, it's just a
Right.
gimmick and whatever." I'm like, there's a reason why that band is big, and it's not because of the fact that he wears makeup. There's a lot of
Right.
bands that wear makeup that would never be that big. You know, I don't really care for Tool, but I understand the validity of why a lot of people love Tool. It's not for me,
I
but,
mean, they
like,
outsold Taylor Swift at least for a week or two.
that's so,
There's
like,
something
there
there.
it's not just because of the fact that they suck. Because if there's a lot of bands that, like, suck, there would be there's I can name about 50 bands that would probably outsell Taylor Swift if it was
Hey,
based off of
if
them
all it
sucking.
took to succeed was sucking, then I would be the most successful person in the world.
Right, like, and it's just, like, a strange thing because like, I was talking to I think me and Moke were talking about it on tour, and because he was just like, "Yeah, I just hated on Ghost for the sake of hating on Ghost." I'm like, "There's a reason why they're big," and he's like, "Yeah, this song is sick," and I was like, "Yeah, like, it's good," and, like, I know it's, like, it's taboo to say you don't like Ghost nowadays, but, like, yeah, there's a reason why the band is big, or there's a reason why, like, Nickelback is big, and there's a reason why, like, all these bands that exist are big. It's not because of the fact there's some sort of conspiracy. It's
Right.
because of the fact that they're good, you know? Like, it's and it's react and people are reacting through music,
Ghost
and
is such a good example of that sort of thing of like the sentiment flipping. Because I remember when they came out in 2010 or whatever it was, every blog and magazine and stuff was losing their shit about how great Ghost
Mhm.
is, and everyone wanted to say how great they were. And then after they became successful, 4 or 5 years later, it's the opposite. Well,
Oh,
the
100%,
band
yeah.
didn't change really. I mean, a little bit, I guess, but not really.
No, it evolved, like, as bands are supposed to. Like,
Right.
it's like but then again, then you have the constant dilemma of, do you write the same record? But then people go, "They just write the same record because that's where we're in. We just write the same record."
Right.
Um, and or do you evolve where everyone just goes, "Oh, they sold out." So, like, what line do you toe? You know what I'm saying? Like, do you toe the line of, like, evolving, which is what I think that band has done? Or do you just stay stagnant and have everyone just write you off being like it's the same band same album over and over and over again? Like,
Well,
I
that's
don't
why I
like
thought Pain Remains, the songs,
yeah.
was so good, is because you did exactly that. Like, it definitely feels like evolution,
Mhm.
but it still sounds like Lorna. And like, that's such a difficult thing to nail.
Yeah, I think, like and the funny thing that, like, to touch upon the whole record as a whole is, like, everyone just like, "Oh, it just sounds like the EP." It's just like, yeah, that was the point. We did 3
Right.
songs. We wanted to go into the record being
A
like
year and a half ago. It's not like that was 10 years ago.
literally the EP came out August 2021. We were in the studio November of 2021. Like, we literally didn't we did 1 tour on it. So, like, we're still, like, feeling great about this
Still the
EP.
same band.
Yeah, we're still feeling great, like, it hasn't been that long, and it's just like, yeah, we wanted to continue doing what we're doing, like, it hasn't been that long, we wanna pick up where we left off, so, like, everyone's like, "It feels like it's the same thing," it's like, I kinda wanna just continue doing what we're doing, I'm not looking to alter the formula, if you will,
Right.
I'm literally just trying to just continue what we're doing and pick up where we left off, and but I mean, I'm glad that it seems like Pain Remains feels like a little bit of that evolution while still feeling like Lorna Shore. So that makes me feel good because like that's good to know. But yeah, it just the metaphor I constantly always talk about. Any one of my students would hear me say this is just that like when I used to teach, I would always be like writing songs or writing an album is basically like having the same marble, like Greek marble, like statue, and all you did is you put the hammer and chisel down when the record was done, and the next time you write, you just pick it up and you're just like just making it more refined and making it look more like what you want it to look like. It's not like every record you get a blank slab. I don't think that because then every record's gonna sound like a completely different band, which you don't want. You want every record to still feel like your band. So I just feel like you're just kind of just picking up where you left off, being like, all right, cool. You can kind of see the outline of this woman's face and she has no arms and looks like she might be wearing a toga. But the next record, you can really see it defined because you understand yourself a little bit more and you understand your sound or your creative process or what you can do, what you can't do. And then I just feel like every record is you just chipping away and chiseling at this one statue and becoming more and more refined versus doing a whole brand new statue every single record. And that's just kind of how I've always saw it was, and I just see how that the evolution of the band is because like you look at Ghost, it still feels like Ghost,
Sure.
but it just feels like it's just becoming more and more evolved to just be a better version of themselves, which like you kind of that's what you expect as human. So why not as a band?
Well, on that note, my understanding is that you once said, and I might be wrong about this, that you would never have clean vocals on Lorna Shore. But Will is a pretty fucking good clean vocalist. What is your stance on that in the current year?
Um, so I think that like when it comes to clean vocals, I've seen a lot of people fall flat on their face in the
Yes.
worst way possible because it's a cash grab, right?
Almost never works out, but
Yeah,
sometimes it does.
it does work out. I think when it's done authentically. I think anything works out done authentically, right? Um, I just think singing is the extreme version in our world, so it just feels very like polarizing, like holy crap,
They
versus like
went bought rock.
yeah, like it's very extreme. And for me, I just think I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I think in the past it was just like we didn't have anyone that like really could sing. So if we were just like, oh, let's just put singing because no one can sing, it's just like, well, that's a bad idea.
Right.
Now that I know Will is obviously more capable of that, but it also just needs to be where it's the right part and the right because none of these songs would singing would make sense over. It would be
Right.
like it would be jarring. It would be like, I don't this doesn't work, you know? So for me, it's now being having a vocalist that's capable of doing it, it might be an idea that I might do, but I'm not 100% sure. Like and maybe it's something that we have to like try out ourselves and go, do we want to do this or not? Like I think it's kind of hard to tell when you don't have like the song in front of you.
Right.
But I mean, I'm not gonna rule it out and say I'm opposed to it, but I'm more open to it now knowing that we have someone capable of it, but I also don't know if I am someone to write a song that would be fitting of that because I don't wanna just, like, jam it in there and just be like,
Or
"Yeah,
go to some producer who's going to write a song for you specifically so that you can have clean vocals in it.
no, yeah," and that because I'll tell you right now, people think, like, the metal fan base or any sort of fan base is dumb or stupid. They pick up, they're smart,
Yeah.
they sniff that shit out from a mile away, they know right away, like, you're onto something, and I can see it, and I've seen this happen time and time again, like, they've caught you, and it's good, they hold you honest. Um,
Yep. It
but
almost never works out. Like Bring
yeah,
Me the Horizon pulled it off, but that's because it was authentic.
and it was also an evolution too, it was over a period of time, it wasn't like Count Your
Yeah.
Blessings to That's a Spirit, like, I was
Right.
talking about that on tour not too long ago, or same with, like, Architects or whatever, any of those bands, it's like, it was constantly going, gradually doing that, or, like, even, like, Whitechapel, like, they
Right.
started gradually implementing it, and it felt organic, it felt authentic, it was, like, the right song, it wasn't like Phil was doing singing vocals over a song like This Is Exile, like, it does
Right.
that would not make any sense, but it was, like, on a song where it was, like, more of acoustic or of a clean song, I think on Off the Valley, and, like, that
Yeah.
makes more sense, it's more fitting, like, um, I think if we have the song that's more fitting on, I would be open to trying and seeing how it goes, but, I think now I'm a little more open to it because, again, as I keep saying, we have someone that is capable of doing it, but
But it
then again
does go badly more often than it
it
goes
does
well.
because it feels just like
Way more often.
it's done with, like, the intention of, like, this will get the band bigger, and I'll tell you right now, never had even when we thought about doing that, like, years ago, like, oh, because 'cause you're desperate to try to get the band bigger, you're like, "What do we need to do?" Like, I've tried things and, like, it didn't work, and what worked was just, like, being yourself and just, like, sticking to your guns and, like, believing what you're doing was the thing that, like, kinda got us more opportunities, got us
I mean,
better.
To the
Yeah.
Hellfire is one of your filthiest songs,
Mhm.
and that's the one that really made the band take
Yeah, no,
off.
like and it was just crazy to me because like, I think about this all the time. I think about this all the time, and I'll never forget it. Um, we were in the studio working with a producer, and he was just, like, giving us a bunch of rules, like, "You need to have this long of a song, you don't need these parts, you need to, like, dumb down your songs, this, that, and the other thing," and I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "Oh, I wanna get you more fans." And I was just like in my head, I'm like, "There's no guarantee in that." And then
Right.
ironically enough, we didn't write a 3.5-minute long song, we wrote a 6-minute long song. there's 3 breakdowns, there's no clean vocals, there's a bunch of nonsense, like, it's just nonstop the entire time. It
The
is
mix is just ridiculously filthy and noisy in a good
Yeah,
way.
and then we got 2 arena tour offers, so you explain
Right.
that to me, Mr. Wizard Genius Producer Man. Um, and it was not Josh, so just so you know, I don't wanna be like, "Oh, Josh, what is wrong with you?" Like, no, he was the guy we ended up working with after that. That kinda led us to Josh, and, it was just crazy, like, seeing the opposite effect that, like, what Josh was saying when I explained that, he was just like, "What the hell is he talking about? Like, just do whatever the hell you wanna do." And I'm like, "Oh, you're my best friend. Like, you're just like, just go ahead, lean into your insanity." And that's literally what that song and what that band is. He's just very much just like, you guys, like, he knows that's who we are as people. You guys are a little bit crazy. You guys are just high energy from New Jersey. Adam, you're a little bit neurotic. Like, just lean into that significantly versus like having us be a different band makes no sense. And I just
Right.
feel there's no guarantee that like adding clean vocals or not adding clean vocals or dumbing yourself down or putting 3 breakdowns or making weird animal noises. Like, there's no variable that's gonna make your band big. It's just like it's the whole thing in its entirety. So it has nothing to do with
You could put out
syncing.
an album that sounds like Nickelback, and you're not going to be Nickelback.
No, we won't be Nickelback because like we're not Nickelback. We're Lorna Shore
Right.
and like and I'm not trying to be Nickelback, and I don't think that I can draw influence from it. I can go, "Oh, what are they doing that I can, like, adopt?" I mean, and I was doing that on this tour, like, this last tour, like, I never done a tour with a band, like, that puts on a show like Parkway Drive. Like, it's not just here's lights on a stage. It's
Right.
like there's a catwalk that gets on fire. There's concussions. There's all these stuff. There's, like,
It's like Iron
multiple
Maiden type shit.
it was insane. There was an intermission where violin players came out. I was just like, "Oh, this is like a show. This is not like bands in a venue. This is like a
Right.
full-on show." And I was just trying to be like and I was like watching their crowd interaction versus ours, and I was like, "What can I take from this situation that I can like not go, let me just follow that formula, but like, what can I learn?" Because if I learn nothing from the situation, then like other than we played big shows, it's more so than I don't think I gained anything. I want to be like, what can I learn from being here that I can apply to the band to like do it in our own sort of sense? And yeah, it was just cool to, like, watch that and cool to see that because it's just, like, that's a band that evolved. That band was, like, a traditional, like, old school, like, metalcore band that's just, like, now, like, just, like, a modern day massive metal band, like, in Europe. Like, it's insane how big that
Right.
band is, and, like, it's rightfully so because when you're in that room and every single person in that room knows every word to the entire song, like, that's something to be said, and it's not by accident, and it's not like they're doing anything inauthentically or inorganically, like, it was very much it still felt like Parkway Drive. It just was an evolution, and I think that's just kind of where I'm at when and whether it be with clean vocals, whether it be doing songs with no breakdowns or don't do anything that's as harsh or do more like sad emotive songs. Like I don't know the answer to it, but I'm just gonna do what we think is best, and if it makes sense to have Will sing, I'm gonna support it 100%. But if it's just like we're throwing it in there because we're like this is gonna get us on a bigger tour, like we'll never do that.
Right on. Well, I will let you get on with your day. Thank you very much for making time for this. Good luck with the album. I'm certain that people are going to love it. And I will catch you guys when you come through Seattle.
Oh, you're coming out?
Yes, sir.
Oh, hell yeah. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And yeah, I'll see you in Seattle.